One of my reports' behavior has jeopardized an important client relationship. I know I need to give them feedback, but I'm quite upset about the situation, which makes me nervous. How can I ensure I give appropriate feedback without letting my emotions get the better of me? And second, what can I do to make this conversation productive and have a positive outcome?
First, put it into writing. The second, split into two meetings. When we're really upset about something, it is really easy to let our emotions override what we're talking about. And that's like a sympathetic nervous system response, right? So it's like that kind of fight or flight. We're getting upset. There's a glass wall that's coming down between us and our skill set. Our skill set is in a toolbox in front of us. Our skills have two levels. There's the top level, which are like more basic but really useful skills. The bottom level are much more specific skills like negotiation, empathy, like being able to set the tone of the room. So when we're upset, that glass wall comes down and it interferes with our ability to get to our tools. The more upset we are, the less ability we have to get to our tools. If it comes down halfway, we can only get to the top level of our tools, which are our more basic tools. If it comes down 3/4 of the way, we can't get to any of our tools. We're only left the ability to fight or run away. So when I say write it down, what I encourage people to do is if there's something that you're really upset about and you have to really talk to your report about, you should write it down, not for them. They don't need to see this document. You should write it down for you. When people write things, there's a whole psychology in play. And when you're writing something, people tend to view writing in a much more formal way than they view conversation. And they also tend to write in structure because that's how we've all been trained to write, is to write in structure. So that means that when you're writing with things, you're going to try to create a very, very clear structure that tells the story. And I encourage you to sit down and write it. And you can write it total free form for as long as you want. It could be like 10 pages if you want. Probably won't be though. You should write it out. That's going to allow you to pour all that emotion, all of those feelings onto a piece or several pieces of paper and really work it out. But that's not all. Once you're done writing it, the job then is to restructure that writing so that it's almost like a report. You start with your main point and then you support your point by explaining it. You should do some revisions of this writing. This is not a script. I don't want you to use it word for word, but what I basically want you to do is write it in a way that allows you to have emotion, but also has like clear structure. In doing that, you're just basically creating your talking points. So first just write it out raw. Like you could be like, piss me off. Like you could drop F-bombs in there, whatever you want to do. Write it out raw and then revise it, and then make it into bullet points. Bullet points mean you're leaving behind paragraph structure, all of that. You're only hitting the most important points. If you go through that process, which will probably take you a couple days, it might take you 2, 3, 4 days, it might take you 5 days to do it, just revisiting it each day. Boil it down to some really salient points, but it allows you to take that whole journey from something that's like super important and has pissed you off or has upset you into what are the most important points, but that also allow me to express how I feel about it. That's the first thing you do. Second, I encourage you to break it into 2 meetings. The reason I encourage you to break it into 2 meetings, it's likely too much to cover in one meeting. In meeting 1, there's going to be 3 movements of the conversation. You give them the feedback. They don't interrupt you. You're just giving them the feedback. Second movement of the conversation is they can ask any question you want. They can, give you feedback. They can have the full-on discussion. The third is that you start creating a plan about what's going to happen. So that's that first meeting. But the second meeting is their reflections on it. So I'd have a second meeting where you give that person the opportunity to come back and they talk to you about what happened, why it happened. They can be more in that space, what the reflections are, what they could do different. And then you could give them your reflections as well. So if something's like really upset us or really pissed us off or really made us feel like betrayed or let down or taken advantage of, trying to manage all of that in one meeting is way, way too much. You do have to give them the feedback. Then they have to respond, ask questions, all of that. Then you have to create a plan. But you can have a second meeting, which is kind of like the reflection meeting. It's like, okay, let's talk through it. Now we've both had time to sit through it. They start, they give you their reflections, you give your reflections. And that's that space of kind of getting good with each other again is in that second meeting. If you try and do both in one meeting, forget about it. If you try and just have that meeting without doing that first step of writing it all out, then it's going to be a mess. It's totally normal to get super upset about things. Like I get like crazy, like anxious or worried about stuff because I have my own business. And I don't I don't want to take the time it takes to write something down because like everything feels like it's like super urgent. But if I don't take that time to write it down, I'm not going to have a good meeting. And then if I don't have the right kind of meeting with those three movements, then it's might as well not even give the feedback. So you want to have those three movements. And then finally, that second meeting where you both have reflections, that allows for the like, for lack of better word, like healing, you know, you get to get good with each other again. And if it's someone that you want to keep working with, you got to have that get good meeting again. But again, write it down first, go through the whole process, get to the right story arc, put it into bullet points, then have a meeting with three movements in the meeting, and then finally have a second meeting where you can get good with each other again.